Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to start with a kind of question, because as I said, I didn't really prepare something, and this will be a live coding session. And so I'd like to know what you're interested in, and I show you two projects of mine who we can write tests for right now. One is a Node project. That's a helper for writing better commit messages. You see I sneak in some parts of my part of my talk that has been rejected. I show you how that works. So I have a project here that's and I add some commit. Is this big enough? Can you read this? Okay. For the whole talk, if you have anything, any ideas, anything how to make this thing better, if I should talk slower, or you just want to say something or see an error I do, just yell at me and feel free to interrupt. That would be nice. So I add the package JSON here. And there's a tool called committedsen. And I can say git cz. And now he is proposing types for this commit. So the package JSON is probably a short commit, and that's on the package. And now I can write something here. I don't know. Basically, the Node package is a small tool that can help. That's part of this chain to write better commit messages. So, and that's untested right now, and we could write Node unit tests for that tool. The other thing is, I work at Gymno, and we do have this UI library. It looks like this. It's basically a long list of, I can scroll somehow. So a long list of patterns that we can use in our UIs. And I don't know if there's, that's not really a use case, but in lack of a better project to test, we could write some end-to-end test for this library. So basically, we can switch from production to beta state and see Marcus, for example. And yeah, we can basically use Selenium to click on that and maybe make some screenshots. So these are the two projects I'd propose. And now, by a sign of hand, who would like to see unit test for Node project? Okay, and end-to-end test for another? Okay, we do end-to-end test. I can close this. I reset this commit. So I won't go into the details of setting up this stuff, because I use not that fancy new technology. I will use Nightwatch, which is kind of not a hipster, just new project that came up, but some good software that, in my opinion, is stable. And I won't be really opinionated about what to use for that stuff, but instead I'd like to show you the concepts that I think you can apply on other frameworks like Protractor or some newer stuff. So I worked a lot with Protractor for Angular apps, and as you might heard, all Angular apps are now dying, and we skip to React and stuff, so Protractor is not that really a thing. So let's go to Nightwatch. I prepared, what I did is I installed Nightwatch, npm install Nightwatch, you can get it. And I installed a Selenium helper that is called WebDriver Manager. And that can help me to set up a Selenium server locally. Here we go, Selenium server is up and running. So what we now can do is start the demo app. I think I killed the server, so yeah, that might take a little while. And then Nightwatch is testing something. I'm not really sure, but because the screen is so small, maybe we will run into issues because of that. But we will see. No, actually, okay. My first test I prepared is passing, so everything is fine. Here's what I did. We have Nightwatch JSON. Oh, that's a wrong project. One moment. We take this one. Here's a Nightwatch JSON. Basically, this is just cargo culting from the Nightwatch homepage. Interesting is that we connect to our Selenium here. So we started a Selenium server, and that's running on my local machine here on port 4444. And here we are saying Nightwatch to connect to this. That could be also some cloud service like Source Labs or Browser Stack or something. Anything that can that provides a Selenium API. And we are saying, hey, we want to use a Chrome, and the rest of this file is pretty much just cargo culting setup. Here's my first test. So basically what we're doing is we're resizing the browser to way more than the schema can show us. So maybe 600 to 800 or 800, 600. Then we want to test something. So let's test the production tag. What we first need to do, we tell the client to go on this website. So that's exactly the one that I showed you here. It's running on my local machine. Could be anywhere. I could run this test against a production site. I could run it against Google or whatever. And then I'm just asserting that there is an element with this CSS selector on the page. It's a UI tag that's active, and I want to ensure that this is production. So basically this would be a test to ensure that we see this state when we land on this page. It could be that some person thinks it would be good to have the beta enabled by default, and then this test would fail. So if we say we would like to have the beta enabled by default and run the test again, you can watch it here. Yeah. And now it says, hey, the element with this selector contains the text beta. That was our assertion, but we got production, so something is wrong. Here we go, but we actually want to have it to be production. And now let's change that. Let's say, hey, what happens if we do this? We land on the page, we click this button, and we click this button. Now we want to ensure that the beta button is active. It's simple as that. We say click here. Now we should have a state where there's no active tag, and then we click on the other. Tag button. I'm searching for a selector that we can actually click on. UI tag beta looks promising. Whoops. And now we assert that this is beta. In case you wonder, I have a pause here just to have a chance to see the state before the browser quits. If we would run that in CI or some headless browser, this is pretty much useless, so we can skip that. But right now it's kind of interesting to see the state that we are after having manually clicked, not manually clicked. I rerun this. And that worked. So these are our two assertions. And we have production better and everything is fine. I think you get the idea. You can basically go crazy with this, and we could normally on the left side here would be a navigation. We could check if the navigation works, so that we see the exact pattern that we navigated to. We can check the context switches that we have here, but I think that would be repetitive. So let's dig a little bit into regression, visual regression stuff. What we just recently did is to use exactly this tool to do then screenshots of this page. So what we can do is say, hey, please screenshot here. And I think I have to, it's save screenshot. And I have to say beta state or something like that. I don't actually know if this works. Let's check. Doesn't look like it. Oh, here it is. Nice. We have a screenshot. So, and we could now take this screenshot and run some image analysis against it and compare it with another screenshot that we made a few years ago, and say, hey, we want to ensure that there's no difference between this and that. There are tools that do all that out of the box, like Phantom CSS and WebDriver.io. Problem is right now, I feel that both of these projects are kind of in a not that stable state. So that's why we used Nightwatch, but I highly recommend to check for projects that do all that out of the box before you try to come up with some solution for your own. So what's the time? That was just 50 minutes. Okay, what we do now? Any ideas?
Yeah. How do you handle asynchronous actions in your app? So how do you know when your app is ready for the assertions?
That's a really good question. I kind of hope that we just came into a situation where that happened and then I forgot about that thing. So there are asynchronous things. So maybe the web page will load some scripts after a user clicked on a specific button, or maybe you have a really big JavaScript app that just takes some time to calculate a state or whatever. One thing I really loved about Protractor is that Protractor can hook into Angular and kind of asks Angular if there is a state that that is stable. So you can, if you know a little bit of the insides of Angular, Angular has these digest loops. So basically, whenever I click on a button, Angular just runs and waits for a state where there's no change. And with Protractor, these Angular can tell, hey, I have a state where I don't expect any changes, and now you can make assertions. So basically, if you happen to work on an Angular app, I highly recommend to use Protractor because you normally don't need to think about that. But let's just assume we are not on an Angular app, and we have some asynchronous stuff here. So as you see, when I reload that page, I maybe can throttle that a bit. There's this loading screen, and if I happen to make assertions while this loading screen is active, normally what Selenium will say, hey, this button that you try to click on is not visible to me right now. So right now, if I click here, nothing will happen because the button is not there. And therefore, mostly all, so this is not a Nightwatch specific thing. Most implementations for Selenium do have such things. These are wait for states. So I could say, hey, I know that when I go to this URL, there's some kind of loading overlay or some asynchronous stuff. And I could say, hey, let's wait until this loading overlay is not present. Or not visible would be another thing. So the difference between presence and visibility is basically an element could be on the page, so the DOM node is on the page, but it's on display none or hidden between after another element or something. And in that case, it wouldn't be visible. And if that DOM node simply doesn't exist, it isn't present. So let's try to figure out how that loading overlay If I just had watched the talk about service workers yesterday. Yeah, it's just this loading class on the body. So that would actually, that was correct. Let's check if that works. Nope. So he expected a second parameter on that. I think it's a timeout. Okay, yeah, that's not actually what we wanted, but it illustrates the issue here, because now we're getting an error that we timed out while waiting for the element loading to be present, and we expected it to become not visible, but it wasn't actually found. So we need to ensure that this element with the selector loading is not present after we go to this website and wait for 5 seconds, for at most 5 seconds. Okay, here we go. Element loading was not present after 33 milliseconds, and then the rest of our assertions work. Okay?
And I guess you use the same approach for animations?
That's a bit tricky, because yes, you can do that, but maybe if you animate an element in the view and you say, hey, wait for this element to become visible, it will be visible when it just enters the view a little bit. So I know how Angular is solving that, and I don't know if I assume that other animation frameworks have another approach. So I think if you have, I guess jQuery can do that too, that you just manually inject the JavaScript into the page that sets all animations to 0, so it just happened instantaneously. That's the magic, one of the testing magic behind Angular Animate, and I think other animation frameworks can support something similar. So the idea is that you just disable animations for end-to-end tests. What I just did in a case where I wasn't able to do that is work with pauses, but that's not elegant. So we checked what is the longest animation that we can expect, and then when there was a state that we know here an animation is happening here, we just waited for 500 milliseconds. But I see that this is not a good, not an elegant solution, but it works for in our case. So.
Another question?
Did you have problems with scroll events?
No. Sorry. The question was if I had problems with scroll events. Not really. I ran into problems when I tried to scroll in Phantom.js, because that kind of don't support scroll events, but I haven't digged into that, so we just didn't use Phantom.js then. I think it would be possible somehow, but we used native browsers, so Firefox and Chrome for the most part, and there the scrolling was, we had no problems. Did you have any problems concretely, or?
Yeah, with Phantom.js.
Okay.
And Phantom.js together, there were some problems, but I didn't test the Selenium browser.
Okay, so the problem was with Phantom.js. Yeah, I can relate to that, but I don't have a good solution for that. Should we just continue with some questions, or is there any thing that you want to see, or?
So we have 5 minutes left, or 4 actually.
Yeah.
So more questions, or are there more questions? Do you have another interesting thing you want to show us?
I can show you the visual regression stuff we did, but as a disclaimer, we didn't actually test it. So right now, that's just a tool that produces screenshots, and we are in the process of using that screenshots to actually test that against another state. So basically, it's just what you just saw. We are going on a page like this and clicking around to produce a state that we want to test, and then we make a screenshot of that. And the next step would obviously be to have some kind of image diffing tool to say, hey, we have a change or we don't have a change. And the big question that is most of the parts not really solved, in my opinion, is how to come up with a state that we want to test against with. So it's kind of easy to make a screenshot of a page, but what's the state that we compare against? So if this runs in a CI, or I have a pull request test that makes automated screenshots, what is the state that we want to achieve here? I do a pull request because I want to change something. And when the tool just said maybe it fails because it says, hey, the button that you just changed is now red instead of green, maybe that's exactly what I wanted to have. So the big question is how do we create the input for the test? So what's the state? Yeah.
Did you look on the Galen framework where you can simply write how our component test behaves? So when we are in a breakpoint with less than 300 pixels, then the font would test to be I don't know, 80 pixels.
No, sorry, I haven't.
So this framework would probably solve the problems you have with scripting.
Okay, so what was the name again?
Galen. G-A-L-E-N.
Galen. Yeah. So there was just a comment about the Galen framework, and I haven't had a look at it, but that may be a framework to solve exactly the issue that I just said. And I have ideas on that, and would like to talk about that, but these are not in a presentable state, I think.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.